Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick made a big move linked to a controversial campaign donation. Patrick announced his campaign would buy $3 million worth of Israeli bonds. That amount is significant. This summer, Patrick received $3 million in a donation and loan from the Defend Texas Liberty Political Action Committee. Earlier this month, the Texas Tribune reported leaders of the conservative PAC met with Nick Fuentes. He's a far-right commentator who has praised Adolf Hitler and denies the Holocaust happened. News of the meeting led to calls for Patrick and other elected Republicans to return money they accepted from Defend Texas Liberty. We told you how Patrick first said he planned to keep the money. He said leaders of the PAC told him they condemned Fuentes and portrayed the meeting as a one-time mistake. But new reporting calls that into question. Now Patrick is making a different statement. In a news release, the lieutenant governor said he learned there are other so-called Republicans who share these hateful beliefs and are trying to spread their anti-Semitic views within the GOP. He continued saying, every Republican group in the state, no matter how small or how large, including our state party, needs to root out this cancer, adding, those who are anti-Semitic are not welcome in our party. The news release ended with his vow to use $3 million in campaign cash to buy bonds for Israel. Concern over anti-Semitism in Republican and conservative groups came to light earlier this month after reporting by the Texas Tribune uncovered the meeting between Defend Texas Liberty leaders and Nick Fuentes. Robert Downen broke that story for the Trib. He joins us now. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. What prompted you to look into this story?
I mean, straightforward enough. We got a tip and I left about 3 a.m. from Austin to Fort Worth, and kind of the rest is history.
Well, Patrick has described Fuentes as an avowed anti-Semite, and he's praised Hitler, denied the Holocaust ever happened. Why would any PAC meet with this guy? What does he bring to the table politically?
You know, I think that's a good question. I mean, we have yet to get any kind of answer on that. We have asked Defend Texas Liberty and its leaders, I mean, at this point, dozens of times probably, for any kind of clarification. We have not received anything. I will say, though, you know, Nick Fuentes, his visit here comes as he has been embraced by other Republican Party officials. You know, Donald Trump last year had dinner with him at Mar-a-Lago, a meeting that was widely condemned by members of his own party. So, I mean, the idea that, you know, Nick Fuentes and his views were not well known when he took this meeting and was in Texas, I think is hard to argue. And so I think it does beg the question, what benefit was there that these groups were getting for him from his visit? And moreover, you know, how normalized is his ideology in those camps that it didn't seem that to be, you know, something that was necessarily I guess, a huge deal for them to be meeting with him. So
your reporting found the Fuentes meeting wasn't the only example of anti-Semitism being linked to conservative political groups in Texas. How significant is that influence?
You know, we've just in just this week put out a story showing that at least 5 former and current Fuentes associates and followers were either, you know, being hosted by or working directly with groups that are funded by Defend Texas Liberty, which, you know, as you know, is a kind of the tip of the spear of this huge, massive, sprawling network of groups, nonprofits, and campaigns. And I mean, what we found is that this type of anti-Semitism is really not totally outside the norms within those camps. I mean, you have groups like True Texas Project, which really coordinates a lot of the grassroots work for this network. And their leaders in 2019, after the El Paso Walmart shooting, said that they sympathized with the racist gunman who killed 22 people there. And they're still in those positions. On Saturday, Matt Rinaldi, the chair of the Texas GOP, will be appearing at a softball game with them for a fundraiser. And so, you know, while Nick Fuentes is definitely the most public of these figures, I think it would be a mistake to ask or, you know, act as if he is not kind of a part of a longer trend of normalization of anti-Semitism and extremist rhetoric in those circles.
You know, earlier in the program, we talked about the lieutenant governor announcing he would put campaign funds toward bonds for Israel. He did it after discovering other examples of anti-Semitism linked to Republican and conservative groups. Your reporting revealed those examples. How does that make you feel?
I mean, you know, I think that, you know, I won't say whether I think it's a good or bad step. I will say that, you know, we've had a lot of people who have reached out to us in the wake of his announcement on that, saying, you know, we're glad that he is, you know, making a more, coming out more strongly against this meeting and making some kind of, you know, I guess, moves to reconcile his ties to this group. But again, there are also people who've pointed out, and I think probably, fairly, that investing this $3 million is not redirecting it. It is not giving it away. It is still essentially his money that he is gaining interest off of. So I think that the reaction from our end has been kind of a mixed bag between people who have said, this is a good first step, but also has it gone far enough.
All right, Robert Downen from the Texas Tribune, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Child care facilities closing in Texas. Why more could be at risk of closure without help. Our investigators dig into the data.